Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Do you feel stuck, silent, and stressed? Is something hurting your heart and soul? Are you burning yourself out? If so, you are in the right place because this is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with inner peace and joy. Let's get started. Hey, for the last couple of episodes, we have been talking about some of the secrets for how to be happy. The very first secret we were talking about has to do with the idea that, hey, happy people don't wait for things to happen that are outside of themselves that will make them happy. Because guess what? You cannot control those things. You cannot control what other people do or don't do, what happens in the wider community, or the economy, or what kind of weather it is or isn't present. Happy people, are happy because they choose to be happy, because they take control of their happiness. So they take deliberate, intentional, conscious action to create happiness for themselves, right? And I talked to you about some of the ways in which you can do that for you, right? So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I highly recommend you go back a couple of episodes of the podcast and you listen to it. Because it's such a crucial concept that you must understand and implement in your life if you are to gain control of your well-being, if you're to gain control of your own happiness. The second secret to happiness had to do with the quality of relationships that we have. And I was telling you about some of the research that has been done that shows that healthy, happy relationships are an absolutely crucial component for what allows people to live healthy, long, and yes, happy lives. Because look, the fact of our lives is that we are all parts of an interconnected, interdependent whole. We are not meant to even be able to survive on our own. We cannot survive on our own. We depend constantly on the relationships that we have. So having healthy relationships in our lives and having lots of healthy relationships in our lives is not an option if you're going to be leading a healthy, happy life. It's an absolute must. And today, I want to continue talking with you about the theme of healthy, happy relationships. And dig a little deeper into how do we create healthy, happy relationships. Because our relationships are some of the biggest challenges that we can face. All the drama that can get created in our lives. The vast majority of time, there are relationship-related issues that are involved in all that drama. And we find ourselves struggling and suffering because of that drama because of those relationship issues and our struggle to handle them in effective ways. So today I want to tell you one of the secrets. Yeah, this is also a secret of how to be happy, and it has specifically to do with our relationships. You see, how to be happy by having better relationships, healthier relationships. What's the secret to healthier, happier relationships? And it all comes down to understanding this very, very simple fact that all the relationships that we have are in fact a reflection of and a reproduction of the kind of relationship that we have with ourselves. That's right. Just think about what kind of a relationship do you have with yourself? How do you treat yourself? How do you think about yourself? And then take a look at what kind of ways other people treat you. And what is like the kind of quality of relationships that you have with other people. And you will find that the kinds of relationships you have with other people, they really are just an extension and a reflection of the kind of relationship you have with yourself. And if you think about it, you'll see why this actually makes a lot of sense. Imagine if you are somebody who doesn't really like yourself. You know, you tend to engage in a lot of blaming and judging of yourself. Then what happens is you go out in the world and somebody else begins to blame and judge you. Now you might get angry at them, but really, at a deeper level, there's something about what they're saying that resonates with you. Because you say those things to yourself. And probably one of the reasons why you're getting angry at that other person for saying those things to you in the first place is because at some level you believe them about you. And because you believe them about you and now you're hearing them from being spoken out loud by somebody else, it's like, wow, it causes a sense of distress and disturbance in your heart, in your mind. Because who likes being blamed? Who likes being judged? Who wants to have that kind of negative self-image? So when you hear other people speak to you in tones of blame and judgment, yeah, maybe you get angry at them and then maybe you judge them and blame them in response to divert their attention away from you, or just so that you can retaliate and divert your own attention away from what they're saying, because you don't want to deal with it, you don't want to face it, you don't want to accept it. But there's a part of you that has already believed it about you. Because see, it's like if somebody tells you something, says something to you, says something about you, and you do not believe that about yourself, and you feel confident that it is a lie, that it's not true about you, would you really get that upset? So the kinds of relationships that we have with other people are oftentimes just an extension and a reflection of the kind of relationship we have with ourselves. If you blame and judge yourself, another way this could play out in your relationships and how your relationship with yourself begins to reflect in your relationship with other people is that, let's say, instead of getting angry when someone else blames you or judges you, you recognize that, hey, this is exactly what I think about myself. And you're in a place where, you accept that. And so that makes you feel even worse. And you do not even bother retaliating against that other person, because you're like, yes, you're right. This is my fault. I am to be blamed. And you take that on, and it's like that person's blame and judgment just validated your own beliefs about yourself, so you take it. You take it from them. And it just makes you feel even smaller and even sadder and even less confident about you and what you can accomplish or not. Vicious, right? Vicious negative feedback cycle that you get stuck in. Because the worse you think about yourself, the worse you feel. And then we know that the way you feel has the biggest impact on how you act, right? So the way you think impacts the way you feel. The way you feel impacts the way you act. The way you act, just remember this causal chain, right? It works backwards too. So the way you act then impacts the way you feel, which then impacts the way you think. And it's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And before you know it, you find yourself really stuck in this like negative cycle of blaming and judging. And where did it and now it's also now impacting the quality of your relationships, either because in the context of it's creating more conflict in your life, or that it's lowering your sense of self-confidence, your sense of self-esteem, self-respect. And the lower your sense of self-esteem, self-respect, the more likely it is that you will allow people to walk all over you and take advantage of you because you don't think that you deserve anything better. There are other ways in which, if you are blaming and judging yourself, it can be reflecting in your relationships. But I think you get the idea from the couple of examples that I've given. So I won't go much further into it. Let's talk about, okay, if this is in fact a problem that you are struggling with, dealing with, what's the solution? Well, look, if the problem is that you do not have a healthy relationship with yourself, in the sense that you tend to engage in a lot of blame and judgment of yourself, then the solution is quite simple, is it not? The solution is simple in the sense that I'm not saying it's easy to implement, but it's simple nonetheless. And the simple answer is, if the problem is that you're blaming and judging yourself, fighting with yourself, then the solution is stop blaming and judging yourself, stop fighting with yourself. The solution is to give yourself unconditional love. The solution is self-acceptance. Self-acceptance that is grounded in empathy and compassion for yourself. Self-acceptance that is, just grounded in not turning a blind eye towards any mistakes that you might have made, or where there might be room for growth or improvement. No, that's not what I'm ever talking about when I talk about acceptance. We need to face the truth. We need to live our lives in ways that are in alignment with the nature of reality, with truth. But again, it comes back to, we can choose to look at the world from the glass is half full perspective, or the glass is half empty perspective. And both perspectives, are equally true and equally valid. The question is, when you are choosing what perspective you're going to take on for yourself. And it is a choice that you make. The perspective with which you look at the world, with which you look at yourself, it's a choice that you make. And there is no reason why you must choose glasses half empty perspective. You can just as easily and just as freely choose the glass is half full perspective. And when you're making your decision about which perspective you're going to choose, now for a lot of people, they're not making a conscious decision of which perspective they're choosing. And that's a big part of the problem, isn't it? They're just going off of habit. And the problem is that, how did we even develop those habits? Did you consciously choose what habits you wanted to develop in the context of how you think about yourself and how you blame or judge yourself or not? For most people, they did not even consciously choose to develop their habits of how they relate to themselves, right? So this is about making conscious choices, and making conscious choices that are based in reason. Good reason. We don't want to just randomly make a choice, because it makes you feel good in the moment or whatever. You want to make a choice that makes sense for you to make. And I want you to just take some time right now and think about it. So if you are in the habit of blaming and judging yourself, and it's a habit that has developed for you over time, how is it working out for you? What do you think could justify this kind of attitude, this kind of perspective? There are some people who think, okay, look, this is about facing truth, this is about facing reality. They say that, when you, this is, and they're talking about when they're blaming and they're judging, they're saying, look, this is how we recognize our mistakes, this is how we recognize our weaknesses, and if we do not recognize our mistakes and weaknesses, then how are we going to improve? How are we going to solve these problems? And so their idea, for a lot of people, their idea is that it's supposed to help them change for the better. All this blaming and judging attitudes, right? But I want you to ask yourself, how has this been working out for you? Has it actually been helping you? When you blame and judge yourself for something, does it actually help you to change that particular behavior and do better? And what percentage of the time is it helpful? Like, what percentage of the time when you blame and judge yourself, do you find it an effective means of creating positive behavior change? Versus how many times does it happen that you blame and judge yourself, makes you feel horrible, but it doesn't really change anything? In fact, you continue to engage in that blaming and judging, and you continue to even maybe engage in the bad behavior that triggered that particular round of blaming and judging, and just continues to make you feel worse and worse and worse, but it doesn't really change anything. It doesn't really make anything better. Just think about it for yourself. So I'm going to wrap up right here for today, because I mean it. Think about this for yourself. And then we're going to pick up from right here for our next episode and continue to talk about this idea of our relationship with ourselves and how it really impacts our ability to be happy, to live with inner peace and joy. And just my last reminder to you is, hey, until we connect next time, if you haven't already, please do go on iTunes and give this show, the Survivor to Thriver show, a 5-star rating, so that other people can also find it more easily, and they can enjoy it and benefit from it as you are doing. And that is also a great way you can show me your love and support, and it's very, very much appreciated. So please do go on iTunes and leave this show a 5-star rating. So all right, until we connect next time, I wish you lots of peace and joy.